Last week, we took a look at the 7 new listings of online businesses for sale that Empire Flippers had, and interestingly, 3 of them were YouTube channels. And I have to say that over the past year or so, I really feel like I've seen a lot of YouTube channels pop up for sale. So I wanted to talk a bit more about those YouTube channels and particularly cover some questions that you should ask that would help you determine whether or not you should consider acquiring a particular channel and help guide you to determining the right valuation of that channel here. So I've got some points covered out in the questions in a keynote. We're going to go through and cover these, and then we're going to come back to the email and open up those 3 YouTube channels that Empire Flippers had listed for sale last week and included in this email, and analyze and discuss them in the context of the questions I cover here. All right. So we will start with the valuation range of a profitable YouTube channel. That is 1x to 5x its profitability. Now, you're probably saying this because I was thinking this when I typed it. 1x to 5x, that is a wide valuation range. So we really got to narrow that down, and we are going to narrow that down here with the questions. But what I want to say is that as they go higher in that valuation range and really start pushing beyond a 3x multiple, they are likely to have other lines of business. So they're not so likely to be platform businesses or platform dependent businesses on YouTube and just generating the revenue from YouTube, but they're likely to have maybe some e-commerce lined up, maybe some other content channels that are profitable, maybe digital products, maybe some promotional or sponsorship revenue that is not just from the YouTube platform, something like that. I would really expect to see other lines of business as the channels start progressing up above 3x in valuation and certainly above 4x. Okay, so let's take it a step further here and get into some of the specific things you should ask. First up, who is in the videos? Because if it is the seller themselves that is in the videos, that means that you have to replace that seller. And that is very hard to do. The seller's persona may be heavily tied to the brand and the audience. The audience may not like a new person coming in there, right? Or you, as the buyer, may not want to get in front of the camera and make the videos, and you may not have the same level of on-camera talent and speaking skills and audience engagement skills that the seller has, because it is a very difficult skill to duplicate or to master. Speaking on camera is a difficult skill to master. So it's not realistic to assume that if the seller is in all the videos, you can just jump right in yourself and start creating the videos and create the content at the same level and have the same engagement with the audience, right? In that case, if you have to do that, or that's what you're jumping into, the business is not worth very much. I think it may not even be tradable at all in some cases. Maybe in the case of you're the buyer and you're really passionate about that type of content, and you would consider the business like a hobby, or you'd create that content as a hobby anyways. But in that case, you probably should not be acquiring that business. Just go start the YouTube channel up yourself if that is the case. Now, on the flip side here, you could have no one in the videos and you could have a faceless YouTube channel. And that can be good, or that's really good from a production perspective because you don't need to worry about who's in the videos and the content's easier to produce. But that leads me into the next question. How good is the content? Often with the faceless YouTube channels, the content is kind of crappy. And what I see is they're publishing the content in a very big niche or to a very big audience. So they just kind of pick up like scraps, and even the scraps make some profit. And that might be a nice business to own as the seller, but that does not necessarily make it good for you as the buyer, because YouTube, to my knowledge, is proactively trying to filter out low quality content, particularly faceless channels. They're not looking at faceless channels too favorably. I know a lot of people are making a ton of money with it, but you know, the other side of that coin is there's even more people that are not, and there are a lot of people that are getting kind of whacked in the YouTube algorithm and losing their organic exposure. So you have to consider how good is the content, whether it is a faceless channel or not. But particularly with the faceless channels, they really lend themselves to kind of low quality content. It's almost like the blog content of 2012, where people would just publish, spray and pray, right? Just publish a ton of content. Some of it would stick and some of it would make some money. But ultimately, over the years, what we saw is that that just wasn't a robust business model. It was kind of like a money grab at the time. But ultimately, Google filtered those blogs out of the search content. And now with low quality blogs, you really don't make any money. And I think the same thing is kind of happening on YouTube. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments if you feel like I'm wrong on that. But I think a lot of faceless YouTube channels are really at risk of being whacked out of the content. So if it's low-grade faceless content or it is heavily seller dependent, I think the valuation range is, you know, leaning towards the 1x or at a certain point just simply untradeable, because I particularly would not put my money into something that is low-quality content or something where I, as the buyer, have to jump in and start producing the content. To me, that's not a business that I should buy. I would rather pay for a legitimate and robust, I think that's a more appropriate word, a more robust business. I would rather pay a higher valuation multiple for that business. Next up, how engaged is the audience? How engaged is the audience? So is the audience actually watching the videos for a long time? And are they actually interacting in the comments section particularly? Is the audience coming back to the same videos? All right, so on the weak side of the spectrum here, you have videos that are published and people just find them and kind of skip through them, but they don't actually engage with the videos. And what I see a lot of times is people publishing video that satisfies search queries on YouTube or subsequently on Google, and that leads them back to the YouTube. And they kind of answer the question and explain something, but it's just one hit from the audience or viewer, right? The audience or viewer comes there, they get their search intent satisfied, and they never remember the channel, they never remember the video, they don't leave a comment, they don't subscribe, and they go on. That would be on the weaker end of the spectrum. Higher end of the spectrum, the audience is heavily subscribers, and the subscribers keep coming back and watching the video. The channel publishes a new video. Within hours, those subscribers are consuming the video. There's a high repeat viewer rate is what I would be looking for here. A very engaged audience is a sign of a strong YouTube channel. Next up, is there a brand? So do the viewers actually recognize the brand of the channel, and do they seek out the brand? Is there branded search volume for that channel? In other words, are people typing the name of the channel right into Google search and coming directly to it? You could use a tool like SEMrush, that's what I use, to find or see the branded search volume. Ahrefs is another option. Both those two have been around for a long time, and I know there's a couple new players in the space that are apparently just as good or better and at a lower price. I may want to check them out because I know my SEMrush subscription is getting expensive these days. I've seen it creep up from like $49 a month several years ago to $129 a month now, and I use it so regularly I haven't bothered stopping it. And finally, how could you take the audience off YouTube? So this is really the big growth opportunity here with a YouTube channel, aside from just publishing more content, taking the audience off YouTube and, you know, driving them to content that you have on other platforms, but also selling other products, whether that's like a, I think like a Patreon subscription to private YouTube videos and premium content. I've seen some channels do that, or selling them digital products, selling e-commerce products, etc. How do you diversify away from being a platform dependent risk? And a strong YouTube channel that would have a higher valuation is one that has a lot of opportunities that are feasible for diversifying away from the YouTube channel and subsequently diversifying away that platform risk. All right. So in context of those questions here, let's open up or let's take a look at the YouTube channels in this email. We're going to open them up in a new tab. This one making $3,300 a month. This one making $10,000 a month. And finally, the biggest one here making $13,000 per month in profit. And before we get into these here, what do you think about the questions that I have covered? Is there anything else that you feel like I've missed out on? Things people should consider or ask before acquiring or before even making an offer on a YouTube channel? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful or insightful, you know the drill. Smash that like button to help me out in the YouTube algorithm. Now, let's jump into these two, right, or these three. First thing, before we even get into it, or before we even talk about the questions, the trend of profit is something I always like to look at because, if the business is trending downward in profit, it's just not a good sign. It's much easier to jump into a business that is already trending up in profit. But this one here, launched in 2022, produces content centered around car TV shows, combining commentary, highlights, and analysis tailored to automotive enthusiasts, with an average of 5 videos published per month. Its top 3 videos account for 25% of the views, with traffic primarily coming from the browse features, 58%. 3 independent contractors who follow SOPs, and yeah. So I am hearing that this is a faceless channel, considering they've got 3 contractors and combining commentary on highlights and analysis. I think that could easily be done faceless, so that's what I'm going to believe this business is. And let's just not go to the valuation range right here, but who's in the videos? Faceless, most likely. How good is the content? We don't really know. That's something you have to judge by looking at the actual videos. How engaged is the audience? We can't tell much about it from this listing other than what I will point out here, and that is that 58.4% come from browse features, and they don't have a number for subscribers. If it was a high subscriber, percentage driving traffic, or high percentage of subscribers driving traffic, I would expect to see that called out here, and that would indicate that the audience is very engaged because they're coming back, but that would have to be further assessed when you look at it. Is there a brand, small channel declining in profit? Probably not. How could you take the audience off YouTube? Yeah, combining commentary, sponsored videos, maybe driving them to an email list or something like that. But I don't really see a ton of opportunity here in this channel. It's valued at a 27x monthly multiple, so that, on an annual basis works out to be a little over 24 or 2x valuation multiple. I think it's in the realm of fair, but I think the real tell is how high quality is this content here. If this is pretty quality and the engagement metrics seem to be decent, I think at 27x it could be fairly valued. I would forecast it out over the future 12 months earnings that you'd project for the business, ultimately to arrive at the valuation for the business. But yeah, I mean, I guess just to put it simply, I'm not wild about this. I don't see anything that I really like about it here. So while it may be fairly valued, or in the realm of fairly valued at 27x, that is for the right buyer that really sees some opportunity with this one. The next one, in the children entertainment in news and education space. First thing, notice the trend of profitability here. It's been a lot more stable over the years. Okay. This one, they're calling out the subscriber count, 160,000 subscribers. It has a robust history of producing engaging long-form content with around 90 videos published to date. So far fewer videos, I think, than this one. Did this one say? No. Okay. I think they just said that they're publishing a certain number per month. The content creation process is well documented and streamlined, including SOPs covering everything from idea generation to publication. The process ensures smooth transition to new ownership. While the host of the channel is not moving with the sale, 95% of the views come from non-subscribed users, suggesting that the channel is not dependent on any particular personality, making it highly flexible and adaptable for new ownership. Importantly, the content is not focused on the host's personality or life, allowing for a new owner to replace the host as needed. Okay. So first thing first, we see that the seller is the host of these videos. Now, they say that 95% come from non-subscribed users, suggesting that the channel is not dependent on any particular personality. Yes, that is the case, maybe. But you still got to be getting in front of the camera, producing the videos, and you have to be as good on camera as the seller. And let me tell you, there is a wide range, a very wide range of how good someone is on camera. There are people that are very good and very magnetic. They're good on camera and they really just draw people in. And then there are people that are not, right? So if you've never really produced YouTube videos or tried, you don't know where you're at on that spectrum. And this is a very big risk, not to mention you have to plan on jumping into it probably nearly full time to produce the income and continue producing these videos. That is a big tell here. How good is the content? I mean, they got a real person in it, so it's fairly decent in producing $10,000, but how good is the content going to be under your ownership? You don't know that. So I think that it would be, wise to be conservative here and say it's not going to be very good. How engaged is the audience? Well, they're saying 95% come from non-subscribed viewers, so I'd say they're not too engaged at all. Is there a brand? Probably not if they're coming from non-subscribers. Could you take the audience off YouTube? Well, we don't really know exactly what they're publishing here. I mean, are they publishing Miss Rachel style stuff? I don't really know. The business is priced at a monthly multiple of 19x. And so that works out to be about a 1.5x, slightly more than that on the valuation range here, or on an annual basis of valuation. I would say that it's priced in the realm of fair, but that is for the right buyer. And if you're at the channel here, you're probably not the right buyer because I really focus on acquiring businesses that you don't have to jump into and be involved in the day-to-day. If you're going to buy this business, you got to plan on getting on camera here and making the videos. I mean, there's no way around it. If you like making kids videos, sure, at a 19x, it's probably something, it's probably worth considering. But for most people here, I just don't see this happening. Most business acquirers, it's simply untradeable. All right, let's go on to the next one here. And that listing does not exist. I guess either they took it off or someone bought it in the last few days. So we will wind it down on that note. Two things here before we sign off. A, do you feel like there is anything I missed out on or overlooked? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. And B, if you found this video helpful or insightful, you know the drill. Smash that like button to help me out in the YouTube algorithm. And I guess C, if you're considering acquiring a YouTube channel or you have acquired a YouTube channel, let me know in the comments below as well. I would love to hear from you. I am calling it a wrap and signing off on that note.